Awesome. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, tonight we're going to continue from Teachings for Victory, Volume 4, and we're on the third Gosho, which is A Ship to Cross a Sea of Suffering. Okay, we left off last week on page 39, where it says, striving to be genuine practitioners.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Striving to be.
Okay, so we've, of course, last week where we ended up, basically we were talking about the Daishonen's state of life and all those sorts of things. But basically, again, when we talk about that, what were we discussing as the real issue there? What always comes with the attainment of Buddhahood?
It's not easy.
Yes, not easy, but then once you've gotten there, what else can you be assured will continue? Obstacles and difficulties.
Yeah.
Obstacles and difficulties. The Buddha proves the power of his faith and the validity of Buddhahood. Okay? Can't do that if all you're doing is waltz around on a gold chariot. You have no problems. There's nothing there for you to demonstrate that power, that strength, or to inspire those that have yet to achieve it to go for it, right? Okay, so that's what this page 38 is all talking about. The difficulty, the hardship that he doesn't reflect, that he doesn't care about, and all that sort of thing, right? Let me just go, let's start, we'll start reading then on the very last paragraph. That'll bring in a little bit of page 38. Okay, it says, the very top, first column of page 39 then, he says, this summarizes the whole thing. Nichiren goes on to write that without tribulation, now what's tribulation?
Hardship.
Difficulties. Tribulation is nothing more than barriers to access. It's tribulations are not, they're things that you overcome. A tribulation is generally something that holds you back. It's something that you had to fight through, right? So it says, Nichiren goes on to write that without tribulation, there would be no votary of the Lotus Sutra. Because in the absence of tribulation, the person is not functioning as a votary of the Lotus Sutra, because the Lotus Sutra says the votary will for sure meet tribulation. Got it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That the persecution described in the Lotus Sutra had actually occurred in Nichiren's life is the clearest proof that he acted truly as the votary of Lotus Sutra. And what does he say then there in that same paragraph without broadening it too far for anybody else to buy into? He does this constantly. This is really how you need to be trying to read all of this. Read into what he's really saying, but he can't say because it's too far over the head of most people to just hear him say it that clearly. What did he just say in that last sentence? That the persecution described, page 39, that the persecutions, plural, described in the Lotus Sutra had actually occurred in Nichiren's life is the clearest proof that he acted truly as the votary of the Lotus Sutra.
Yes.
What is he saying there? It's totally applicable to him, to me, to you. Yeah.
Yeah. We take
Why?
the vow. We are the bodhisattva of
Right.
the earth,
I'll read the sentence one more time. Let me
It's
read the whole paragraph.
validated.
Exactly. That the persecutions described in the Lotus Sutra had actually occurred, rather than just being theoretical constructs, okay, in Nichiren's life is the clearest proof that he acted truly as a votary of the Lotus Sutra. Now, so what is that really saying too then? That is saying that you also
have to do the same.
Yeah, when you see tribulations in your life, it's the clearest proof that you're actually functioning as a votary of the Lotus Sutra, as a Buddha. If you go through life as the Buddha with no problems whatsoever, got news for you. You ain't going through life as the Buddha. Okay? You're going through as a fantasy, as somebody that's bullshitting everybody, that's play acting being the Buddha. Okay? The Buddha has difficulty. The Buddha validates the power of his life by overcoming that difficulty. Okay? So, understand that is the clearest proof that he acted truly as the devotee of Lotus Sutra. That applies to you. All right? Striving to be genuine practitioners. What the hell does that mean? Striving. What does striving mean?
Try hard to be.
Trying. Yeah, it's endeavoring to, toward, to be genuine practitioners. What's it? What does it say?
True,
First of all,
true.
when he qualifies genuine practitioners, what is he also saying without saying it?
Not going Titan.
Of course, that would be a genuine. We would say that's kind of the minimum of a genuine practitioner.
Practice like a dash.
Well, what does he also state in that title without saying it?
To be bodhisattva of the earth.
No, this is what he's also saying there. Striving to be genuine practitioners means that there's such a thing as someone that's not a genuine practitioner. There's somebody that can be practicing, but they're not practicing genuinely.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, this is the difference between who gets benefits and who doesn't within the Soka Gakkai. Okay, when you see people with fortune, they're doing the things that create fortune. When you see people that don't have fortune yet they're still showing up, they're still doing they're doing something that they need to focus on a little differently. They have to take the responsibility for the reality that they experience. Okay? So striving to be genuine practitioners is also qualifying to you. Hey, there's something deeper to this than you may see on the surface when you come to your first meetings and they say just chant and do Gongo and pray for benefits. Okay? And if you never give up, you'll do human revolution and attain Buddhahood. It's like one sentence, yeah? Right? Okay. So, genuine practitioners. During Nichiren's lifetime, page 39, first column. During Nichiren's lifetime, a considerable number of people in Japan profess to believe in the Lotus Sutra, just as a considerable number of people now do, right? He says, but their practice consisted of little more than listening to lectures on the sutra or transcribing its passages with the aim of gaining personal benefit. Their view of the sutra differed completely from the Buddha's spirit to work wholeheartedly, even in the most troubled times, to free all people from delusion and suffering and leading them to enlightenment. With his selfless dedication to the propagating of the law as the Sutra's votary, Nichiren boldly revealed the error of people's approach to the Lotus Sutra in his day. Now, what did he also say there again without saying it? I love Daisaku. Okay, he's so clever. What did he just say there without saying it again? I'll read the paragraph again through. During Nichiren's lifetime, okay, so that's the predication he's laying it on. Nichiren's lifetime, right? But we also know this is during our lifetime too. Now, so listen to this whole thing as though he's talking about it in a present tense rather than during Nichiren's lifetime. A considerable number of people in Japan profess to believe in the Lotus Sutra, but their practice consisted of little more than listening to lectures on the sutra or transcribing its passages with the aim of gaining personal benefit. What's that sound like to you? Sounds to me like an Oko. Do you understand do you understand what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
He's being critical of without being critical. He's saying that what we quit doing and what we're being opposed for as Soka Gakkai is really the predication of the correct practice that Nichiren laid out in his day. Okay? Because when you sit around and wait for a priest to do an Oko so that you can then do Gokuyo, okay, say thank you for letting me hear the words of the Buddha and taking me closer to, whatever. You're the only one that can do that. Okay? So he's saying that it's based on practice that you bring out your Buddhahood. It's not going through a ritualistic process of following religiosity for the sake of following religiosity. During Nichiren's lifetime, a considerable number of people in Japan professed to believe in the Lotus Sutra as they do today, but their practice consisted of little more than listening to lectures on the sutra or transcribing its passages with the aim of gaining personal benefit, as they do today. Not just Japan, everywhere. What President Kate is now qualifying, though, is that view, he's calling it their view of the sutra, differed completely from the Buddha's spirit to work wholeheartedly, even in the midst of troubled times, to free all people from delusion, regardless of whether they were a part of your sect or not, whether they agreed with you or not. You were willing to do shakabuku to convey the correct teaching. Do you understand? And suffering to free all people from delusion and suffering and leading them to enlightenment. You do that by opening them up to Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, right? He says, with his selfless dedication to propagating the law as the sutra's votary, Nichiren boldly revealed the error of people's approach to the Lotus Sutra in his day. And that error would still be an error in the present time. Do you understand? Okay, so Nichiren is the one that qualified it's an error all the way back in the 13th century. Okay? It's still an error today. That's what he's saying here. Taneso Buro Makaguchi, what he's really qualifying is what makes the Soka philosophy and the Soka Gakkai different from all the other Nichiren sects. That's what he's talking about without saying it. All right? Whether you realize that's what he's bringing out here, that's what he's really reflecting. Okay? All right, so Taneso Buro Makaguchi. And I've got like stars all the way around the corner. This must be an important paragraph. Taneso Buro Makaguchi, the leading Soka Gakkai, the founding Soka Gakkai president, famously distinguished between those who merely believe in the Lotus Sutra and those who actually practice it. Encountering obstacles or devilish functions is what distinguishes practitioners from mere believers. What does that mean?
So the more troubles you have,
I don't know about the more troubles you have, the better you are. That's not really what it's saying either. What it's qualifying is that having troubles are a validated component of practicing correctly.
Right. Yeah.
Okay? So he's saying, famously distinguish those between those who merely believe in the Lotus Sutra and those who actually practice it. Because he's talking about people that actually practice it always encounter obstacles or devilish functions. This is the key. The only way to avoid them is to not do human revolution. To not actually practice with real faith. To say you believe it but not do anything. Does the devil of the 6th heaven worry about somebody like you if you're that way? No. I don't have to do any work to get that one to not attain Buddhahood. Okay? They're doing it for themselves. Do you follow what I'm saying? All right, so famously distinguished between those who merely believe in the Lotus Sutra and those who actually practice it. Saying that this is coming afterwards. Encountering obstacles or devilish functions is what distinguishes practitioners from mere believers. Practitioners will experience the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils. That comes from practice. That doesn't come from belief only. Do you understand?
Right.
You practice because you believe. All right? All right. He said, he was saying, in other words, that those concerned solely with their own benefit, as I've said like over and over and over again here, who don't confront the 3 obstacles and 4 devils are mere believers. While those who apply themselves to Bodhisattva practice for the sake of Kosen Rufu, for the happiness of both themselves and others, and actively battle the 3 obstacles and 4 devils, are genuine practitioners. Okay? So when he says striving to be a genuine practitioner as the header of all this, what was he basically saying then? I already said, by saying that, he qualified that there are people that are not genuine practitioners. What's he saying then?
Don't just believe.
Don't just believe, you must do.
Yes.
And when you do, you will encounter difficulty. And when you encounter difficulty, don't be freaked out. Go, attaboy, you're on the right track. That's what he's saying. Don't seek the easy way. Seek the profound way. Okay? That's what Buddhists do.
Right.
None other than the first 3 Soka Gakkai presidents and our dedicated members in Japan and throughout the world have faithfully engaged in this endeavor as true practitioners of the Lotus Sutra. I'll raise my hand and say I'm one of them. That is why the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils and the 3 powerful enemies have arisen to obstruct our movement's advance. Because each member is a practitioner of the Lotus Sutra, the Soka Gakkai has been able to face countless hardships and obstacles with courageous faith and triumph completely over each one. And they have. And that's really why. It wasn't a superior amount of money or a greater war trust, or they were smarter than everybody else. They did what the teaching says to do. Okay? The significance, second column, page 39, the significance of sharing a single phrase of the Lotus Sutra, going back to the Gosho now. You should realize, this is from the Gosho, you should realize that it is because of a profound karmic relationship from the past that you can teach others even a sentence or a phrase of the Lotus Sutra. So, what was that? That was a pretty deep declarative from Nichiren himself, qualifying why it is you're able to actually read this sutra and then share it with others, which is what's required for you to become a Buddha in your present form, right? That's why you're here, actually, is to do Kosarufu. So he says, you should realize, which when he says you should realize, he's saying, you should have faith in the fact that I'm teaching you this truth, that you don't have the wisdom to perceive. But if you'll have faith in mine, I'll tell you now. I'll shortcut you. All right? You should realize that it is because of a profound karmic relationship from the past that you can teach others even a sentence or phrase of the Lotus Sutra. The sutra reads, nor will they hear the correct law. Nor will they hear the correct law. Such people are difficult to save. The correct law means the Lotus Sutra. In the latter day of the law, it means Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. It is difficult to save those who are deaf to the teachings of this sutra, to the teachings of Nichiren in the latter day. A passage, continuing on page 40, from the teacher of the law chapter reads, if one of these good men or good women in the time after I have passed into extinction is able to secretly expound the Lotus Sutra to one person, even one phrase of it, then you should know that he or she is the envoy of the thus come one. This means that anyone who teaches others even a single phrase of the Lotus Sutra is the envoy of the thus come one, whether that person be priest or layman, nun or laywoman. You are already a lay practitioner and therefore one of the good men described in the sutra. So what did that just say? A passage from the teacher of the law chapter reads, if one of these good men or good women, which he just says, by the way, you guys, you are. If you're reading this, you're my disciple, you're one of the good men they're talking about. Okay? In the time after I've passed into extinction, is able to secretly expound the Lotus Sutra to one person, even one phrase of it, then you should know that he or she is the envoy of the thus come one. What does that say?
You are the instrument.
You are exactly correct. Profoundly connected with the original teacher. That's why this whole Gosho started with me happily quoting him saying, we have been sent here by the Buddha. We are emanations of the Daishonin. That's what I was talking about. That's what that's talking about. Okay? He says, Nichiren here, at middle of page 40's first column, Nichiren explains here that it is because of a profound karmic relationship that we can share a single phrase of the Lotus Sutra, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. In the previous section, he described the life state of the votary confronting hardships and obstacles, a description, in fact, of his own personal struggle. But many of his followers began to doubt the truth of the mystic law and began to waver in faith when they saw obstacles arise and Nichiren being persecuted. We can presume that Shiichi Shiro, however, continued to stoutly defend Nichiren and propagate his teachings. In this letter, Nichiren states that he and Shiichi Shiro share a profound karmic relationship from the past. He also praises his follower for striving for Kosen Rufu with the same commitment as he. Whoa! So what did that qualify? What did that paragraph then say? Why did he just put all of this in the previous part of the Gosho? He's saying they're going to encounter difficulties. He's then saying that that the only reason they can do that is because of their relationship with me. Okay? In the latter day of the law. And then he's gone on to here to say that in the previous section he described the life state of the votary confronting hardships and obstacles, a description, in fact, of his own personal struggle. Now, we know he was, obviously, right? But then he goes on to say, why was that an important thing for you to be clear on and for you to be anticipating and not to be freaked out about? What is President Ikeda qualifying here? That even though Nichiren was saying all of this straight up as the teacher, as the founder of his teaching, when people saw him have trouble, they began to doubt his teaching. Okay? When they see you begin to have trouble, some of them may also doubt the teaching as a result. And that's why you've got to understand when you're in front of the Gohonzon and you're facing those things, why you should be praying to the Gohonzon and how you must overcome them. Because you are the functioning example of the power of the Buddha. So while we know he got through Tatsunokuchi, will you?
Yes.
This is the question. This is the point. Okay? Do you understand what I'm saying? All right? No, I'm not saying that we're all as grand as Nichiren Daishonin or that the trials and tribulations that we will face will be the same in difficulty or profundity. But as it relates to the function of our life, we have to meet those head on in the same fashion, defeat them in the same fashion, and make sure that others are not confused by what they see going on in their lives, in my life. Okay? Do you follow what I'm saying? Why is Nichiren qualifying this? He's explaining why he is having difficulties and why it's nothing for him to be freaked out and that he's not freaked out about it. And if you're my real disciple, you understand my teaching. I'm teaching it to you now. Where does all this come from? Am I making it up? No, it's all in the freaking Lotus Sutra. It's already all been stated clearly. I don't have a choice in following this path that is this way. It's already been described as being this way. If I'm to validate the teaching, then I must go along this path this way. Y'all with me?
Yeah.
All right. There's nothing to lament about these obstacles or difficulties.
Do we get protection?
Of course we get protection. Of course we get protection. But do we
can we chant for protection?
Of course we can chant for protection. Why shouldn't we? Why wouldn't we?
Not for benefit, but for protection.
Of course. Again, when you talk about what is the greatest benefit? Protection.
Yeah.
Okay? So when you're chanting for protection, you are chanting for benefit. Okay?
Yes.
But the protection that you're chanting for is the ability to persevere through the things that you know you're going. Why are we reading all this to know it in advance of you potentially getting there? This would be a strange thing to read after the fact, wouldn't it?
So we should have no fear.
No shit.
Right.
Isn't that what Daisaku Ikeda has said
Yeah,
like
that's
50,000 times in this process?
That's faith.
Right.
Yeah,
I know you said that because you know the answer already. But yes, that is why we should have no fear. Thank you, dear.
Okay.
Of course. We should have no fear. This is really the point. Where am I?
The last.
I'm down here. Nietzsche first quotes a passage from the Expedient Means, right?
Right.
Bottom of first column, page 40. Nietzsche first quotes a passage from Expedient Means, the Lotus Sutra, second chapter, about how some people resisted and refused to listen to the correct law, the correct teaching of the Lotus Sutra, which the Buddha taught as the sole path for attaining Buddha. No other path to get there. And that it is difficult to save such individuals who close off their mind, their ears. Okay? The only way to achieve enlightenment is through practicing the correct teaching. That's the only way that it can happen, which is why not only Shakyamuni but all other Buddhas as well preach it by every means, by every possible means. Okay, everybody's with me? Okay, so this passage touches on the difficulty of propagating the Lotus Sutra in the latter age after the Buddha's passing, and in that light also teaches how respectable it is to engage in the practice of sharing and spreading the correct teaching. As such, the very act of talking to others about Buddhism is commendable. You don't have to know the depth of all of this. And he's going to say something really beautiful in here that's going to qualify. You don't have to know anything, really, about Buddhism. All you have to know is what you're experiencing in your daily life. And if you have faith based on that, you'll keep getting benefits so that you can talk about Buddhism every day and something differently. Truly. Yeah. He says, Nichiren states, middle of second column, page 40. Nichiren states, the voice carries out the work of the Buddha. Our voice is all important. Why? It's the simplest way for us to convey the teaching. We actually convey the teaching through our actions. The voice has tremendous power. Voices brimming with courage, confidence, and compassion resonate in people's hearts and move them on a profound level. Like we were talking, President Toda, that talking to those kids, that being that leader that inspires, right? Next, he cites a passage from the Teacher of the Law, the Lotus Sutra's 10th chapter, asserting that anyone who shares even a single phrase of the sutra is an envoy of the Buddha, a person dispatched by the Buddha to do the Buddha's work. This passage says that this is true of all who do so, irrespective of gender. He goes a step further to say that it not only transcends distinctions of gender, but also distinctions of clergy and laity. Bunch of stars there. Why do I have those stars there? Had anyone ever said something like that before? Jesus Christ. Women and men are the same, and ordinary people and priests are the same? Holy shit, no one had never said that before. Okay? Do understand, there are even distinctions made by Shakyamuni. You know, you've got all these layers of heavenly beings, and voice hearers are lower than cause awakened ones. You know, these are all stages, right? Bodhisattvas are higher than cause awakened ones in voice. You understand? Until the Lotus Sutra, when he says this, no, it's all the same. All right? Okay, that's a huge clarification as it relates to a religious teaching of any kind, anywhere in the world, when it's stated, at the time it was stated by the Daishonin here. He then praises Shiichi Shiro, the lay practitioner who is spreading the mystic law, telling him he is undoubtedly one of the good men described in the sutra passage, and therefore an envoy of the thus come one. The significance and mission of sharing even a single phrase of the Lotus Sutra is infinitely profound, precisely because it comprises the true words of the Buddha. Now, what did he say there, though? That's very, 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 very important for you to really understand. Let me read it again. The significance and mission of sharing a single phrase of the Lotus Sutra is infinitely profound. Wow. Infinitely profound. Okay? Precisely because it comprises the true words of the Buddha. It's the reason and purpose for your Advent. When you're doing that, When you're doing even a single phrase, that's the reason you were born. Right? Because you're a bodhisattva of the earth. Right? Based on everything else that we've been discussing here. That's what you're striving to be. That's what you should be bought into, the fact that that is your identity. All right? Such efforts also produce great benefits, because when you practice with that kind of faith as a service to the law, rather than give me what I want, how can I help achieve this? You get benefits out the ass. Okay? There's really pretty much nothing you want that doesn't come your way. Okay? Because what you really want is not those kinds of benefits. You want the Buddha's will. Okay? When you pray for when the Buddha's will is your greatest goal, all the other good things come naturally. Frankly. This is likewise the case with our day-to-day efforts to share Nichiren Buddhism with others. And why is he saying that then? Because while we may not have all the components of our perfect life yet together that we can utilize for the sake of what we want to utilize them for, we always have the ability to use this, no matter who we are, no matter where we are. Okay? Well, no matter what our life condition is. We can tell people about Buddhism. We can gain fortune. We can take ourselves one step closer to the ultimate goal of that ultimate life that we dream of having. Do you understand? Okay, so let me read that whole paragraph again. The significance and mission. So what is he first? What's that quality? Significance and mission. What's that also stating then? There's a real reason. There's a significant reason. Okay? And there is a mission. There's none of, if you're going to say even a single phrase of the Lotus Sutra, it is never by accident, it is never by chance, it is never casually. It's the most profound thing that can come out of your mouth. Okay? So the significance and mission. So that means there's a karmic relationship with you and that individual every time that occurs. That may seem like you didn't know them that well, or you didn't even know them at all. But what President Keita is explaining here is that you must understand the very fact that that occurred between both of you qualifies the truth of your relationship. You just established it, if nothing else. Okay? The significance and mission of sharing even a single phrase of the Lotus Sutra is infinitely profound, precisely because it comprises the true words of the Buddha, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Such efforts also produce great benefits. That's what we get from our practice in doing Shakabuku. We get benefits, right? This is likewise the case with our day-to-day efforts to share Nichiren Buddhism with others. This establishes fortune in our daily lives. Such efforts are not merely restricted to talking about difficult Buddhist doctrines. In fact, I'd say talking about difficult Buddhist doctrines is hardly a big part of it. Okay? If you're going to talk about difficult Buddhist doctrines, then you're talking to somebody probably asking questions with the seeking spirit that's already on the path with you. Okay? Right? He says, there's no need to overcomplicate matters. You can simply share the unadorned and honest account of your actual experiences, your joy, and your conviction in the power of faith in the mystic law, exactly what you're experiencing. These are the words of truth too. These are words of truth too. You are guaranteed. Now, Daisaku Ikeda is now going to make a guarantee to you. He says, these are words of truth too, just like the words of Nichiren above. You are guaranteed to become happy through this Buddhist practice. Period. Quote unquote. Chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo will transform your life. Period. Quote unquote. There's no difficulty that can't be overcome through chanting. Period. Quote unquote. That's a promise. Sincere words, notice all those stars. Sincere words arising from a genuine wish for a friend's happiness words of conviction and joy welling forth from the depths of your life, words of courage and hope to dispel a friend's sufferings. All of these are words that awaken the Buddha nature within others. They've all got it too. It's just sitting there waiting to be activated. This is why sharing even a single phrase in itself constitutes a fine way to propagate the correct teaching, and why such noble efforts are certain to bring forth wonderful good fortune and benefit. Everybody understood what that point was, right? You don't have to be able to discuss the entire breadth of the Buddha's teachings in order to achieve your mission and role as a bodhisattva of the earth. That was the spirit with which I took the lead of propagation activities in my home neighborhood of Tokyo's Ota Ward 6 decades ago in 1952 at 24. I reached out to one person after another and encouraged them, intent on building a network of fellow bodhisattvas of the earth who in turn would go out to share with others even a single phrase. So what did he just say? He said, what he just encouraged, he says, okay, sincere words arising from a genuine wish for a friend's happiness, words of conviction and joy welling forth from the depths of your life, words of courage and hope to dispel a friend's sufferings. All of these are words that awaken the Buddha nature within others. This is why sharing even a single phrase in itself constitutes a fine way to propagate the correct teaching, and why such noble efforts are certain to bring forth wonderful good fortune and benefit. And he's saying, from my own experience, that's what I did when I was a new member. Before I knew everything that I'm speaking at such depth of understanding. Do you understand? You don't have to have that depth of understanding to do the things that are going to create joy and happiness in your life and accomplish Kosen Rufu as a bodhisattva of the earth. He said, he's speaking first person now, I had one powerful wish. And please listen carefully to what his wish was. And that was to report our success in spreading Nichiren Buddhism and bring joy to President Toda, our mentor in propagation. Mm-hmm. That was all he cared about. He wanted to make President Toda happy. Okay? That was a significant motivating factor in my efforts. Mm-hmm. Now, he doesn't say it was my only motivating factor. Okay? But he does say, that's that mentor-disciple relationship that he's always talking about, how important. This is the fuel that fired his furnace. This is the firewood that burned, that got him to be the Daisaku Ikeda that's 90-something years old and writing all this. This is going to last for hundreds of years, frankly. All right? I regarded, he's talking first person again. I regarded each one of our members as a Buddha. As I regard each one of you. Okay? Because he told me to. Because he told me to. He taught me the correct view. Okay? I vowed to respect them and to create an environment in which they could practice freely with satisfaction and fulfillment. That's what the Buddha wants. He wants people to be happy in their practice, in their faith, so that they can be the Buddha and encourage others to become the Buddha. I strove with the willingness to do whatever it took to make that happen. That's what he's encouraging you to have the same attitude toward. Anyone who can tell others how great the mystic law is or how wonderful Nichiren Buddhism is, even if just a single statement or word, is without exception an envoy of the Buddha. The very act is without exception an envoy of the Buddha. The very act of sharing the mystic law ensures that we will accumulate immeasurable benefit as such noble envoys. Our lives are certain to shine brilliantly, overflowing with good fortune and benefit in lifetime after lifetime, entering birth and death in the realm of Buddhahood. He's got a little thing here that says, propagation of the law will bring you benefit equal to the Buddhas. Okay? Kind of summation of everything he was just saying there. If you'll do shakabuku, you'll accumulate the same fortune as the Buddha, because you become the Buddha, frankly speaking. I would like to praise all of our members at the bottom of page 41. I got a star here. I would like to praise all of our members, especially the youth, who are exerting themselves energetically for Kosen Rufu and expanding the SGI network through their efforts to speak with others about Nichiren Buddhism in the same spirit as me. Not being immodest, he's calling it what it is. Going on to the Gosho again at the top of page 42. A ship to cross a sea of sufferings of birth, a ship to cross a sea of sufferings of birth and death. One who listens from the Gosho, one who listens to even a sentence or phrase of the sutra and cherishes it deep in one's heart may be likened to a ship that crosses the sea of the sufferings of birth and death. The great teacher Myolo stated, even a single phrase cherished deep in one's heart will without fail help one reach the opposite shore. To ponder one phrase and practice it is to exercise navigation. Only the ship of Myoho Rengekyo enables one to cross the sea of sufferings of the sufferings of birth and death. Troubles and worries are an inseparable part of life. Okay, say it again. Let's requalify it. Troubles and worries are an inseparable part of life. No one can escape the sufferings of birth and death. The sea of the sufferings of birth and death is a metaphor for the deep, unending sufferings we encounter in this life, the difficulties of life itself. Referring to a passage in the great teacher Myolo's annotations on the words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra, Nichiren writes, one who listens to even a sentence or phrase of the sutra and cherishes it deep in one's heart may be likened to a ship that crosses the sea of the sufferings of birth and death. Aboard the ship of Myoho Rengekyo, we can cross the roiling seas of suffering no matter what painful adversities await us and arrive at the opposite shore of victory and happiness. But if we did that, what else definitely occurred also?
You attain Buddhahood in
Yeah, but
present
what
form.
else happened besides something to me? How can I attain Buddhahood? Can I attain Buddhahood without other people attaining Buddhahood?
No, all together as a same
No.
ship.
Right, so he says,
I went now
aboard?
with
No, well, we're not aboard. No, we're all the ship.
this. We are the ship.
We are the ship. We are the ship because we're also a mechanism for bringing others because we're teachers of the law. Get it? We're not just physical
So we are-
flotation devices, right? He says, aboard the ship of Myoho Rengekyo, we can cross this, which is our Buddha nature. Aboard the ship of our manifest Buddha nature, we can cross the roiling sea of sufferings. No matter what painful adversities await us, and arrive at the opposite shore of victory and happiness with others we have brought forward with us. Okay? If we were just going to cross that sea of suffering, I mean, after we've done Buddhahood, we would attain enough fortune, we wouldn't have to do that. Right? We come back and manifest for the sake of this difficulty, to manifest this reality of our true identity for the sake of awakening others to that true identity. Do you understand what I'm saying? We do this for the purpose of bringing others with us when we become that vessel. We actually make our advent to become the vessel for the others that don't have not formed that relationship. Okay? The single phrase Nam Myoho Rengekyo, which Nichiren taught as the seed of Buddhahood, the fundamental cause for attaining enlightenment, contains within it all of the Buddha's teachings. By believing in this single phrase, all people can reveal their inherent Buddha nature and transform the sufferings and sorrows of the human condition into the Four Noble Virtues of eternity, happiness, true self, and purity, which are the opposite flips of
The opposite flips for.
birth, old age, sickness, and death.
Yeah.
We can turn the four sufferings into the four noble truths. That's what the four noble virtues, right? Nichiren's use of the word listen is significant. The passage from Myoho that Nichiren cites comes from the annotations on the words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra. In that work, the great teacher Myoho goes on to say, whether one accepts or rejects the teachings, they have entered one's ear and one has established a bond with them. And what is he talking? That's the point. That's the poison drum relationship. Okay, that's what that is. And then, though one may comply with them or go against them, in the end, one will, because of this bond, this poison drum, will be able to achieve liberation, attain Buddhahood at some point in time in the future. And I can take you to that Gosho. I won't right this second. I have it out to do that, but I knew we wouldn't have time. While keeping in mind the specifics of a person's situations, listen to what he's saying. This is from President Ikeda. While keeping in mind the specifics of a person's situation, to allow them to hear the Lotus Sutra plants the seed of Buddhahood in that person's heart and activates the world of Buddhahood within them. So what did he just say there? He says, while keeping in mind the specifics of a person's situation. So if somebody's hysterical and not in a position to apprehend what you're saying, that's not the time to try and do shakabuku. What he's saying is being mindful of who you're speaking to. Never doubt the fact that if you just say Nam Myoho Renge Kyo to them, you have lit the match, you have lit the fuse. Okay? Which will never go out. While keeping in mind the specifics of a person's situation. In other words, we don't go around like idiots going, can you say Nam Myoho Renge Kyo? Can you say Nam Myoho Renge Kyo? Can you? No, that isn't how we do it. All right? Being mindful of a person's situation to allow them to hear the Lotus Sutra plants the seed of Buddhahood. And to allow them to hear the Lotus Sutra, we're in the latter day of the law, to allow them to hear Nam Myoho Renge Kyo plants the seed of Buddhahood in that person's heart and activates the world of Buddhahood within them. That means it's activated. It means no longer in theory. Okay? They've heard the name and the words of the truth. In that sense, there is no need to be overly worried about how your listener reacts when you talk to them about Buddhism. You've helped them establish a connection to Buddhism, and eventually the opportunity will come when they are able to manifest this life state of Buddhahood. And you should have that conviction. We have seen so far there is enormous benefit in sharing even a sentence or phrase of the Lotus Sutra with others. At the same time, those who hear your words will forge a connection to Buddhism and acquire boundless good fortune and benefit as a result themselves. This is why reaching out to talk with others about Buddhism is so important. Faith is the heart of our Buddhist practice for attaining Buddhahood. I think we've all made that point clear enough that that's not news. Top of our part in the beginning of page 43, first column, from the Gosho. The Lotus Sutra speaks of someone finding a ship in which to cross the water. This ship might be described as follows. As a shipbuilder of infinitely profound wisdom, the world-honored one of great enlightenment, the Lord of teachings, gathered the lumber of the 4 flavors and 8 teachings, planed it honestly by discarding the provisional teachings, cut and assembled the planks, forming the perfect unity of both right and wrong, and completed the craft by driving home the spikes of the one true teaching that is comparable to the flavor of ghee. Thus he launched the ship upon the sea of sufferings of birth and death, unfurling its sails of the 3,000 realms on the mast of the one true teaching of the middle way, driven by the fair wind of the true aspect of all phenomena. The vessel surges ahead, carrying aboard all people who can gain entrance through faith alone. Carrying all people who can gain entrance through faith alone. The thus come one Shakyamuni is at the helm. The thus come one many treasures takes up the mooring rope. And the 4 bodhisattvas led by superior practices row quickly, matching one another as perfectly as a box and its lid. This is the ship in which to cross the water. Those who are able to board it are the disciples and lay supporters of Nichiren. Believe this wholeheartedly. When you visit Shijo Kingo, please have an earnest talk with him. I will write you again in more detail. What did he just, with my deepest respect, Nichiren, and then that gives the Gosho pages. But when he says, Those who are able to board it are the disciples and lay supporters of Nichiren. What's he qualifying? Believe this wholeheartedly. He's talking about the bodhisattvas of the earth, his disciples, not the disciples of the theoretical teaching that has preceded his actual teaching. You understand what I'm saying, right? Okay. All right. With my deep respect, Nichiren. So it's got to be his ship. If only his people can get on the boat. I think it goes without saying it's his boat. After citing the passage from Medicine King, the Lotus Sutra's 23rd chapter, which refers to finding a ship in which to cross the water, Nichiren goes on to describe the power of the Lotus Sutra, the ship, using an extremely skillful metaphor. Nichiren likens the shipbuilder to Shakyamuni, who possesses infinitely profound wisdom. He likens the 4 flavors and 8 teachings, in other words, the pre-Lotus Sutra teachings, to the lumber gathered to build the ship. But the lumber cannot be used as it is. First, it must be planed into the correct shape to build the ship. Quoting with slight variation, Lotus Sutra passage, honestly discarding expedient means, I will now preach only the unsurpassed way. He likens discarding the provisional teachings to planing the lumber. The shipbuilder then cut and assembled the planks, forming a perfect unity of both right and wrong, and completed the craft by driving home the spikes of the one true teaching that is comparable to the flavor of ghee. Forming a perfect unity, at the top of page 44, first column, first full paragraph, forming a perfect unity of both right and wrong refers to the concept that even evil people, even mafia people, even gangsters, anybody, possess the Buddha nature. They can all chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. By teaching that evil people could in fact attain Buddhahood, a possibility denied by the provisional sutras, the Lotus Sutra opens the way for the attainment of all people. When this complete and perfect teaching is accepted and understood, the various teachings of the provisional sutras can take on a new meaning. The one true teaching that is comparable to the flavor of ghee refers to the Lotus Sutra. In the latter day, that's Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. It is the one teaching that expounds the truth of the Buddha's enlightenment, likened here to ghee, the finest clarified butter. The spikes of the one true teaching that is comparable to the flavor of ghee are the fasteners or nails that bring all the parts of the ship together to complete it. The great ship of the Lotus Sutra is designed and built in exact accord with the Buddha's intent. That is, to recognize and bring forth the Buddha nature inherent within all people, to make everyone equal to himself. Once the ship is completed, it is at last time to launch it upon the sea of the sufferings of birth and death. The ship's mast is the one true teaching of the middle way, and its sails are the 3,000 realms. The one true teaching of the middle way is the ultimate truth to which the Buddha became enlightened, which would be Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, which serves as the main mast. And the 3,000 realms here encompasses the doctrines of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds, the 100 worlds and 1,000 factors, and the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. These refer to the true nature of all things and the boundless life state of Buddhahood based on the mystic law and our capacity to be able to perceive ourselves as thus come ones. These form the ship's sails. The ship is carried forward to the other shore of enlightenment by the fair wind of the Buddhist teachings of the true aspect of all phenomena, the reality of life in the 9 worlds. The true aspect of all phenomena is the true essential nature of all things. In the Lotus Sutra, the true aspect of all phenomena indicates that the magnificent life state of Buddhahood is inherent in all things. When we exert ourselves in our Buddhist practice based on faith in the mystic law, which embodies this truth, we can exhibit the wisdom and strength to forge ahead and overcome all hardship and difficulty. That's why the true aspect of all phenomena is likened to the wind filling the sails and driving the ship forward. The passengers on the ship are all people who can gain faith through gain entrance through faith alone. In other words, all who embrace faith in the mystic law. The ship of the Lotus Sutra is the great vessel that carries all the people to enlightenment without discrimination. But without faith, one cannot gain entrance to the ship. On the other hand, anyone with faith in the mystic law is guaranteed passage. Shakyamuni, Nichiren says, is at the ship's helm, precisely steering it, and all its passengers to the other shore of enlightenment. While many treasures Buddha, who affirms the truth of Shakyamuni's teachings and the Lotus Sutra, takes up the mooring rope. The 4 leaders of the Bodhisattvas of the earth, led by superior practices, row the boat toward the destination set by the Buddha. The Bodhisattvas of the earth, and these 4 leaders refer to those who actually uphold the Buddha's teachings, instructing and guiding others to the path of attaining Buddhahood. They represent the motive force that carries the ship with its passengers to the shore of enlightenment. Let me go back. I know we're running a little short on time, but I want to make sure that that paragraph is clear. Do understand when he's talking about the 4 leaders of the Bodhisattvas of the earth, led by superior practices, row the boat toward the destination set by the Buddha. The Bodhisattvas of the earth and these 4 leaders refer to those who actually uphold the Buddha's teachings. So do understand when he's talking about those 4 great leaders of the Bodhisattvas of the earth, remember in the orally transmitted teachings, he qualifies what each one of those actually is. And he says that sometimes a single individual can contain all 4. That's what he's saying. He's not talking about the 4 entities of the 4 great leaders, the 4 great bodhisattvas. Do you understand? Okay. He's talking specifically about this oneness. This oneness, all right? That's why it's us and those 4, all right? Okay, instructing, guiding, and leading others. That what we do as bodhisattvas of the earth is everything else is in that paragraph, right? Everybody's with me? Okay, this is the ship of the Lotus Sutra sailing toward the realization of the Buddha's fundamental wish to make everybody equal to himself, to make everybody aware that they are Buddhas also. Shakyamuni is at the ship's helm, and many treasures holds the mooring rope. The mast of the one true teaching of the middle way rises squarely from the ship's deck, and the sails of the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life billow in the wind, and the 4 bodhisattvas row the vessel toward the attainment of enlightenment by all people. What a truly magnificent ship this is. Bringing this metaphor to its conclusion, Nichiren writes, those who are able to board it are the disciples and lay supporters of Nichiren. He thus indicates that Shiichi, Shiro, and all of Nichiren's other followers who correctly uphold faith in the mystic law qualify for passage and can cross the sea of the sufferings on a course to Buddhahood. That is why Nichiren urges Shiichi, Shiro, believe this wholeheartedly, stressing the importance of faith. This ship is on a sure course to historic achievement. This is President Ikeda's next subtitle. What's he talking about? He's saying that this phenomena, this reality that all of us are actualizing in our lives in this present moment of the latter day as we all seek to achieve the Buddha's will of Kosen Rufu, has created this likewise ship. We're all on board. And he's saying this ship, the one that we're all on individually, is on a sure course to historic achievement. Okay, so he's saying guaranteed Kosen Rufu. All right, this ship is on the course to guaranteed Kosen Rufu. Rereading this letter, we can see that the Daishonin is seeking to instill courage and conviction in Shiichi, Shiro, a follower of pure-hearted faith, by conveying to him how wonderful it is to strive together as mentor and disciple and teach others even a sentence or phrase, together as mentor and disciple and teach others even a sentence or phrase of the Lotus Sutra. In the same guidance I introduced at the start of this lecture, which was President Toda talking at that 1952 study thing, right? All right? Okay, that's what he's going back to now to finish this. This is, we're finally done. He's saying, in the same guidance I introduced at the start of this lecture, Mr. Toda went on to say that the work we have been dispatched to do as envoys of the Buddha is to help all people attain the life state of Buddhahood. It is to uplift the character of the entire human race to the highest value, not the Japanese people. Okay? When all people manifest the life state of Buddhahood, he said, that is to say, when they reveal the supreme value of their character, there will be neither war nor hunger in the world. There will be neither illness nor poverty, enabling all people to become Buddhas, elevating the character of all people to something of supreme value. This is what it means to carry out the thus come one's work. And I just want to add this to you so that you're all clear. Anybody that's listening on the internet, again, you didn't hear anybody say this kind of thing in Japan at the time that Josei Toda is being quoted as saying these words. Because Japan was Japan. It only concerned with Japanese people, frankly speaking. All right? They were real human beings. The rest of us were savages. This is culturally part of their heritage as a country, as a race. Right? So when in 52, after they've been destroyed by war, Toda is saying the hope is in the rest of the world being with us, not in us just recovering ourselves. This is something no Nichiren school is saying that. No Nichiren school is saying that. Not even Nichiren Shoshu. Do you understand that? We wouldn't be talking, and we know we have friends from all over the world, part of this conversation we're having right now. That wouldn't be possible were it not for the manner in which the first three presidents stood up, read the teaching, listened to the priests give them guidance and input. I mean, it isn't like they self-educated themselves, but through daily practice derived the truth that's being shared here. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? This is really significant stuff. This did not exist before the Soka Gakkai. What sounds like common sense right here as I'm reading it didn't exist before Toda said it. All right? He says, this is what it means to carry out the thus come one's work. Talking about Kosen Rufu for the whole world. President Toda was talking about. Okay? This year, 2012, when this was first written, marks the 65th anniversary of my first meeting with Mr. Toda, who exhibited the same noble fighting spirit as the Daishonin. Whoa! Who exhibited the same mind as Nichiren. That's why President Ikeda followed him like that. That's why the only thing that I cared about was to be able to take the results back to my mentor. That's where my joy came from. Do you understand? All right. It says, this year, 2012, marks the 65th anniversary of my first meeting with Mr. Toda, who exhibited the same noble fighting spirit as the Daishonin. Throughout that time, I have carried on my struggle entirely in accord with my mentor's instructions. So whatever I've done that you might have issue with, I picked this up from Josei Toda. Now I wish to say to my dear young friends in the youth division and all my beloved fellow members around the world who will be encouraging young members of the youth division. Okay? This is important. Make sure all the young people understand this. The Soka Gakkai is a great ship on the course to peace, harmony, and prosperity for all humanity, sailing over the stormy seas of the 21st century as it upholds the Buddhist principle of respect for the dignity of life. The Soka Gakkai is a great ship of philosophy, uplifting people's life states. It is a great ship of courage, revitalizing people's spirits. And it is a great ship of wisdom, brightly illuminating the future. As a well-loved Soka Gakkai song goes, this ship is on a sure course to historic achievement. Cheerfully sharing our unshakable convictions with others, even if only a sentence or phrase, let us boldly compose a drama of victory as envoys of the Buddha, with the conviction that the Soka Gakkai is indeed a great ship of hope for humanity. And we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.